All right. Did you hear the story about what was believed to be a near collision between a Royal Canadian Navy vessel and a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier? Fog was heavy, visibility was limited. It seemed like the two ships were headed directly toward each other off the coast of Newfoundland. The American ship captain sent a message at once: "Please divert your course 15 degrees to the north to avoid collision." The Canadian responded, "Recommend you divert your course 15 degrees to the south to avoid a collision." The American responded, "This is the captain of a U.S. Navy ship. I say again, divert your course." The Canadians respond with, "No, I say again, you divert your course." And the American responded, "This is the aircraft carrier USS Lincoln, the second largest ship in the United States Atlantic Fleet. We are accompanied by 3 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and numerous support vessels. I demand that you change your course 15 degrees north, that's 15 degrees north, or countermeasures will be undertaken to ensure the safety of this ship." The Canadians responded, "This is a lighthouse. Your call." Someone once made an observation about pride, and they said this: pride is your brain going, "I am amazing," and reality going, "Let's verify that." So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do some verifying, like the flight stewardess did when she told Muhammad Ali, the great boxer, to put his seatbelt on right before they were about to take off. And he responded to her, "Superman don't need no seatbelt." And she responded to him, "Well, Superman don't need no plane. Put on your seatbelt." So we're going to verify this morning. I want to spend a few minutes talking about pride. People throughout history that have interpreted this book have come to this position over and over and over again, that of all the sins that we are tempted with in life, that pride is the original, the root, and the worst of all. There are some passages, we're doing this study in Proverbs, and let me restate this again. If you want to do well in life, remember the model. Jesus is always our model. Remember the model of Jesus in Luke 2:52. He grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. So what that means is that he's blessed by God, and he's being favored and blessed by others as well because of his love and because of his maturity. I want to tell you today, everybody, I don't care how young or how old you are, would you like to flourish in life? Would you like to experience joy untold? Would you like to be successful in almost every venture that you put your hand and your heart and your mind to? You've got to deal, if you want to, you've got to deal with pride. In Proverbs, as we study Proverbs on living wisely, there's many passages about pride and humility in this great book that keep teaching us over and over again the benefits of humility and the vice of pride. Like these passages here, Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Or Proverbs 26:12. Do you see a person wise in their own eyes? Now this is interesting. There is more hope for a fool than for them. So I think what the wise teacher is telling us, if you want to be worse than a fool, then be promoted and puffed up and elevate yourself with pride. Pride is the one sure thing that will put us, listen, on a collision course with life. The great preacher John R.W. Stott once said this, and I love this quote: "Pride is your greatest enemy. Humility is your greatest friend." Let me simplify it even more. And let's see if y'all can help me out here. So up is down. Say that. and down is up. Let's try that one more time. Up is down, and down is up. So humility, that's down, is the pathway to glory, which is humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and what happens? He will lift you up. Who do you want to lift you up? Sometimes we ask that of our spouse, or we ask that of our friends, or we ask that of people that we work for, or we ask that of our boss, and we are so lustful for their affirmation and appreciation. And if we don't get it, then we feel defeated in our lives. It's not, and when they do give it, is it perfect and is it sustaining? Is it enough? Somebody once said that marriage, if it's not mature, is two parasites with no host, right? Right? A dog is a host. Ticks and fleas are parasites. So, and what we do is we begin to expect others to fill us in a way that only God can. And so what we need in our life is to adopt this mindset. It's the mindset of Christ. That's really it. I couldn't say it any better than that. It's just the mindset of Jesus. And Jesus, what did he do? He humbled himself, became obedient to death, even death on a cross. That's how far he will go to condescend willingly, emptying himself, so that you and I can be reconciled to the Father. Friends, I'm going to tell you, you and I need pride, but I'm going to tell you where it comes from. It comes from the Father, because he shares his glory with us. He counts us his sons and his daughters. And that's where true pride, lasting pride, can come from. Friends, it's a gift that is given to you from Almighty God. It's never at risk. No one can ever take it away. And it's from this gift of glory. Remember when Adam and Eve sinned, what happened? The Father comes walking in the garden. Where are you? Where are you? Well, we hid. We're naked. And we feel shame. They had traded their glory because they got duped into pursuing pride outside of a relationship with God. Remember the temptation from the serpent? You will be like God, knowing good and evil. And she saw that the fruit was very attractive and good for food. And she gave some to her husband, who was standing right there, who chose her over God. Anytime we choose someone else for affirmation, connection, and association and glory other than God, we are the ones with egg on our face. And ever since then, ever since we were duped into pride, it has been one hostile situation after another. I want to share with you that there are two kinds of pride. And one is good and one is bad. There's effort-based pride, so I don't want to be negative on this. That's like when you learn something and you practice and you do it over and over and you perfect that skill, or you create this because of effort and work, you feel accomplished, don't you? And we refer to that sense of accomplishment as pride. But there's another kind of pride. There's effort-based pride, where we get satisfaction from personal growth, commitment, and accomplishment. Then there's ego-based pride. And ego-based pride is the need to be acknowledged and celebrated by others because you believe that you are worthy, you are superior. Effort-based pride promotes growth and resilience and respect and gratitude, and ultimately leads to worship. Ego-based pride promotes the self. And so Proverbs is warning us of the danger and destruction of ego-based pride, the kind of pride that sees the self as superior to others. Are any of you familiar with Garrison Keller, the great storyteller Garrison Keller? He always comes on his AM show, or used to, and he would do this welcome like this. Welcome to Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. There it is in Wobegon. So, what is he talking about, or kind of jesting with right there? To what extent, so I want to ask us this morning, to what extent are you and I, and do we struggle with pride? Have any of you ever heard of the better than average effect? Anybody here ever heard? So there's been all kinds of sociological studies that have been done for years and years that come to the same conclusion over and over. So here's what they've been studying. One of the original and most famous studies asked respondents if they thought they were better than average drivers. The response that they got was more than 80% of respondents reported being above average. Now, folks, that's mathematically impossible. Other studies over the years they've asked the same question: are you better than average on creativity, intelligence, dependability, athleticism, friendliness, and honesty? And one study after the next demonstrates that everybody believes they're a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 or better. There's a famous study that came out in 1977 in which the study was asked of college professors if they rated themselves above average relative to their academic peers. 94% of college professors believe they were smarter, not smarter than you and I, but smarter and better than 94% of their own peers that they teach with. They did this same study on a software company. 32% of employees of a software company said they performed better than 19 out of 20 of their colleagues. Now, folks, that's some pride right there. What does this teach us or show us or demonstrate? You provide people with a survey about any trait, and the vast majority will rate themselves above average. Somebody said confidence is good if belief is based on evidence, actual achievements and results. But belief based on nothing but belief is arrogance. Somebody said pride is just confidence that forgot to bring evidence. So thinking more highly of ourselves seems to be a common trait. Pride seems to be a universal trait that I believe has to be understood and unlearned. If you and I are going to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves, we have to take ourselves off the pedestal, because that pedestal is only reserved for one, and his name is Jesus. C.S. Lewis referred to pride in the following way. He called it the great sin. He said that unchastity or immorality, anger, greed, drunkenness, and all that are mere flea bites in comparison to pride. Pride leads to every other vice, he says. It's the anti-God state of mind. It is pride which has been the chief cause of misery in every nation and every family since the world began. James 4:6 says, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. In James 4:10 it says this, here's the remedy. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. And so we have a paradox. We have the pride paradox. And that is, pride leads to humiliation. Say that with me. Pride leads to humiliation. Humility leads to honor. Say that with me. Humility leads to honor. So here we go. Pride leads to humiliation, but humility leads to honor. Look at these. It's demonstrated in Proverbs over and over again. When pride comes, then disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 18:12. Before a downfall, the heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. Proverbs 15:33. Wisdom's instruction is this: to fear the Lord. In other words, God first in all things. And humility comes before honor. Proverbs 22:4. Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages, listen to this, are riches and honor and life. There's a passage in 2 Chronicles chapter 26. And it's the story of Uzziah. You may remember his name being called out when Isaiah the prophet received his call. Remember, Isaiah 6 begins, in the year that Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, And the seraphim, the six-winged snakes that were flying, said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His," what does it say? "The whole earth is full of His glory." Now that's in contrast to Uzziah. Uzziah was actually a great king. He reigned for 55 years. Only one other king in Judah reigned longer than Uzziah, and that was Manasseh. We read of his story in 2 Chronicles 26. He was 16 years old when he became king. And you know what he did when he became king? He asked Zechariah, who was a prophet, to instruct him in the fear of the Lord. Verse 5, he sought God during the days of Zechariah, who instructed him in the fear of the Lord. As long as he sought the Lord, listen to this, God gave him success. Did you hear that? As long as he sought the Lord, God gave him success. So he goes to war against the Philistines. He whips them. He rebuilds their towns according to his specs. Then he develops some military, and for the first time, the military in Israel, they were given uniforms, they were given uniform weaponry, they were given shields that matched. They were not only well trained in war under Uzziah, they were skilled and they looked good. They looked like those Marines that you see in their main picture. They had that kind of look about themselves. They were, and it also says that Uzziah was a man of the soil. And he was always producing technology. He produced agronomy technology for planting. He produced all kind of military technology. He built up the walls. He built these catapults that wouldn't just shoot one arrow or one rock. They would throw a whole bunch of them at their enemies. This is the high water mark for Israel financially and securely. They didn't have any enemies that wanted to take them on. Until one day, listen to what it says in Isaiah 26, verse 15. It says, "His fame spread far and wide, for he was greatly helped until he became powerful. But after Uzziah became powerful, his pride led to his downfall." Now, I can't tell you how many people that find themselves seeking the Lord, fearing the Lord, putting God first, God's favor upon them, and they do really well in life. They do well in their families. They do well in their marriage. They do well in their business. They become quite financially successful in life. And all of a sudden they come along and they go, "Wow, I really am amazing." And God just really is not needed that much anymore. And that's exactly what happened to Uzziah. Matter of fact, he took God off the pedestal, put himself on there, and then he decided one day that nothing should be refused of him. So he goes into the temple and he decides to make sacrifice and offer incense, burning incense before the Lord. And it says that one of the prophets and one of the priests, along with 80 other courageous men, go in there and confront him. And he responds to them with rage. "How dare you tell me what to do?" And the 80 men saw that God had broken out leprosy on Uzziah's forehead. And they got him out of the sanctuary of the temple as soon as possible. And then the story ends in 2 Chronicles 26. It simply says this in verse 23. "Uzziah rested with his ancestors. He was buried beneath them in a cemetery that belonged to the kings, for people said he had leprosy. And Jotham, his son, succeeded him as king." Do you know what? People did not remember Uzziah for the army. They didn't remember Uzziah for the wealth. They didn't remember Uzziah for the fame and the standing that Israel had as a nation. You know what they remember? And he did all of those things. It's not that he didn't do it. He did with the faith. But what did he not do? He didn't fear the Lord. Pride got the best of him. So, church family, the antidote to all of this, the antidote is to embrace the paradox of pride and the power of humility. Up leads to going down, but going down in humility allows us to go up. I want to close with this observation from Philippians chapter 2, if you want to turn there with me. Philippians chapter 2. Paul says in verse 1, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, any comfort from His love, any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete. You know what Paul is saying? Paul says, I have all of these things, and I want you to have all of these things. And if you don't have all of these things, then there is something missing in me. My joy is not complete. He goes, here's what I want. Be like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. In other words, this superiority that I'm better than everybody else. He says, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationship with one another, have the mindset of Christ Jesus. So we're called, here's the deal. If we want to thrive in life in every aspect, the path to that is humility. It's not pride. And if you want to be humble, you've got to fix your eyes on the greatest example of all. Remember Jesus, the last night with His disciples, what did He do? He gets a towel and a basin of water. The King of heaven and earth, the Creator of all, gets a towel and wraps it around His waist. Follow my example, He says. Jesus humbled Himself, became obedient to death on the cross. And what does do? What happens? God the Father exalts Him. Church family, pride brings a person low. Proverbs 29:23. But the lowly in spirit gain honor. May the Lord bless us all in our efforts to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. If we can serve any of this morning, we have this invitation. Avery, come and lead us in the song. Let's all be standing. If we can serve you this morning, make your way here as we stand and sing.